right, we're back.
Yeah,
Live and
finally,
direct.
finally.
Finally. Well, guess what?
Mm.
Today's number 8.1 million.
Oh my gosh, what
Want
does
to take a
that
stab at it?
represent? What?
That is the number of seniors age 65 and older in Canada.
8.1
8.1 million. That
million.
makes, so that's approximately 19.5% of the total population, senior
I,
citizens.
that was going to be my next question.
And it's
Senior.
trending up to becoming about a quarter of the population. So from under 20% to over 20% in like the next 15, 16 years, something like that.
Lovely.
Interesting stat, but here's the real problem. Take a shot at, or a guess. How many long-term care beds do you think we got in this country?
Beds, like private and public, or?
Long-term care. If you get into the government program, long-term care, where they said, we will take care of you, not to worry.
Hmm.
I know.
I'm going to say 6%.
200,000 long-term beds.
That is
8.1
nowhere.
million, 200,000 beds.
Yeah, I did the math quickly in my head. That is nowhere
No, you
near what
didn't.
we need. No, I
I
didn't.
had to pull out a calculator to figure it out. I'm like, that's like, wait, what? So this is my math, and I'm not a
Right.
genius, but this is my basic math. That's one
Hmm.
bed for every 41 Canadian seniors.
Good Lord.
So one senior is in the bed, 40 people are outside in the parking lot waiting.
Or the
Or
hallway.
inversely, 24 beds for every 1,000 seniors.
Good Lord.
So you've got 9,900 and a lot of people without a bed and 24 people with a bed. That math doesn't add up.
No, it does not.
So, hmm.
Mm. What I do know and what I've been hearing on the news is that there are going to be more private facilities available. But then you get into these private facilities, who's going to pay for that? And most seniors cannot afford private care.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the challenge. Like, I don't know, have you had experience, not you obviously being in a long-term care, but have you had family or any, have you had to go through the process of figuring that out?
I did, yes. For the most part, though, my older sister did the lion's share of the work, but I understand how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we were successful in getting my dad into a long-term care facility, but it wasn't our first choice, nor was it his first choice.
All right.
So
But
there's that.
it's a government run long-term
Hmm.
care facility. So you are covered. So outside of the 200,000 government run beds, yes, there are privates, but those privates are not paid for by the government.
Right.
So they're basically saying if you don't fit into the existing framework for the 2,000 beds,
Hmm.
meaning, your mother, father, loved one, whoever is on the list, but is not granted a bed, and you're at your wit's end and say, I can't personally take care of them anymore, and you put them into private, that private comes out of your pocket or your family loved one's pocket. They're paying for that.
Hmm.
So for all the perks and benefits of having the free healthcare and the promised, security of, when you get older, it's really a matter of if you can get your hands on it.
Right.
And that really is the challenge. When you look at the math here, it's good that your father got something. Not ideal, but it's something. I feel like there's a lot of people who are going to get nothing.
Yeah.
And I wonder who that is going to be. Are there going to be people who either are in crisis or, financial restraints, or, family and loved ones basically give up and be like, I basically award your mother or father to the state and be like, I'm done.
Right. I mean, So the story that I just mentioned to you, that happened a good, I'm going to say, 8 years ago,
So pre-COVID.
pre-COVID, way,
Mm,
way
different ball
pre-COVID.
game.
It
Different ball
is
game.
an absolute different ball game because we did not wait a long time at all. My
Mm,
mother-in-law right now is in a long-care home facility, and it's it's run by the Ontario government, but she's part of the group of people that are there that pays for it. Like,
mm.
so what we have to do as we're approaching the last one third of our lives because we're going to be part of that 8
Jeez, all of a
million.
sudden your math skills get so good. Stop
Thank
that.
you. That is a Jane Fonda quote.
Ah,
Um,
last third.
we have to set ourselves up to care for ourselves, to pay for that care.
Hmm,
I know. I
that's
know.
painful.
I should have thought about this in my 30s, but oh
Well,
well, here we are.
now that you're 41, I guess you can revisit.
Right.
It's the extent of my math skills.
Bad
Um,
math.
yeah, I mean, there's like you said, your father didn't get his top choice. Um, with my father, we kind of he has dementia, so he can't really make some of those choices. But we figured out some or narrowed down the list to some choices. And one of the ones that is closest to where we are, we have experience with through other family members going through more for rehab than long-term care. The wait time when we calculated was over 10 years. And that does not include um, what would it be called? I guess like sort of emergency crisis situations.
Hmm.
They get put on the list. They get injected into the list at the top.
Right.
So, for instance, like, you're on the list, your father's on the list, you're waiting, you're waiting, you're waiting. 17 seniors fall down and break their hip this week, and they have inadequate care at home, and no one can take care of them. Those people, after they come out of hospital or some sort of rehab, they
Hmm.
get into that spot.
Yeah.
They need the care now. So that
Right.
list, although your number whatever on the list, that number is sort of arbitrary because there are other people who are just getting funneled to the top all the time, and you
Yeah.
don't see that. You don't have, and even the PSWs and I don't even remember the names of them, but like the community people that you would apply to, who are your sort of liaison between you and the system,
Right. The
they
social
don't have that
worker.
number. Yeah,
Hmm.
like the social worker. So they don't know how many of those cases are going to hit next month or this, within the next 6 months. So that
Hmm.
number is always just floating.
Yep.
It's not really something to rely on. But
No.
that's my first most, I guess, depressing story. So yeah, let's get off that one. But
Okay.
actually, before we do,
Any happy stories?
this one's sort of happy.
Okay.
So met with a past client slash family friend who referred me to their one of their friends. I was like, oh, that's interesting. The friend is in her, I would say she's in her 70s.
Hmm.
She is representing her aunt. So I'm like,
Okay.
hmm. Her aunt has now gone to sort of a rehab situation. So not long-term care, but that stage where you live at home, can't take care of yourself or have an injury, you go to rehab, you're, being, assessed and treated for, a short period of time, 4 weeks, 6 weeks till you can get through whatever physical issue you have. And then they triage you either back home or whatever the next step is.
Right.
So I spoke to this lady on the phone. Her aunt, now picture this, living at home,
Hmm.
um, widowed, husband has passed on a number of years ago. The aunt is 100 years old
Oh,
and is now
oh.
going to Providence
Yes.
at 100. And now is
Wow.
considering, should I get rid of the house at 100?
Wow.
I don't think she's at her last third. I feel like this lady's just gonna go forever.
Oh, that's good.
And I spoke to her on the phone, like she was as clear as a bell, like unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But the downside is, been in that house since 1984.
Mm-hmm.
So the niece, who is like in her 70s, is absolutely beside herself. She is not of the physical age to be able to manage that because, the lady who's 100 doesn't have kids either,
Right.
right? So it's just her. Her and
Mm-hmm.
her couple of cats. Now,
Right.
like the 70-year-old lady has to kind of come in and, you know, work her magic, so to speak. And I guess she got really, really overwhelmed, and
Mhm.
thus that's what led to the call. But yeah, like
Yeah.
total
So
reversal.
you'll have to provide some services such as, oh, I don't know, not just a cleaner, but an
Oh,
organizer,
it's
maybe.
it's everything from start to finish. It's
Yeah.
like and she has a pool.
Wow.
I'm like, what? She says, yeah, when the
Wow.
husband was around, they would swim every day. I'm like, huh.
Good for her. That's probably why she is acts so young at like 100.
Yeah, she's got purpose. She's got a reason to wake up and do stuff tomorrow.
Good.
Um, but yeah, but it's one of those things that's going to be a huge project for someone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this poor aunt and her son and everybody, like, so I had to do a whole, long one pager of, you know, piecing it all together so that they don't, go crazy with overwhelm. But
Mm-hmm.
little by little, it has to get done and farmed out, and inspection on top of inspection on top of inspection.
Yeah.
You really need to have the whole um, project understood and tightly managed,
Yeah.
because, and this is the other thing, is it goes well beyond what we can do as realtors,
Mhm.
because it requires an electrician, the pool guy. You're gonna need probably three different inspectors. So one for just general structure and the major equipment in the house. Then you're gonna
Mhm.
need an inspector that knows about fireplaces. So she's got a
Right.
fireplace. So you need someone who has a wet inspection,
Right.
WETT. That person is specialized in that. Then you need to have the pool inspected, which is a
Mm-hmm.
whole other department. So, the
Mm-hmm.
pool, the pumps, all the equipment. So all of that by itself is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then she has a motorized lift on one of the walls to go
Mm-hmm.
upstairs. That
Mm-hmm.
needs to be removed, but it's also hardwired. So you need the electrician. You need, like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that need to go into this in multiple
Mm-hmm.
steps that, like, if you don't approach it the right way, either you're going to hand someone a property or sell someone a property at a steep discount because they're going to have to do the work, or you're just going to be overwhelmed trying to figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So that is another one of our duties as a realtor is in this case, you're also a project manager because you're
Yeah.
going to be managing all of these different trades that have to come into the house in order to make it saleable, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Oh, I know.
project
Many
manager, great.
hats.
Hard
Many
hat.
hats.
Yeah,
Well,
hard hat.
I've done it a number of times before, but again, like, you know, and I think we can't stop reiterating the fact that, like, this is going to be a huge burden for that generation, that
Mm-hmm.
sandwich generation, because it's never the same twice.
Right.
Um, it's just, and again, if the closer you are to the story, the harder it is to deal with, right? The
Yeah.
if it's your childhood home or something, it's even harder to separate the emotional piece. And even if your mother is 100 or your aunt is 100, you're
Mm-hmm.
still their niece or their daughter or their
Mm-hmm.
son. So it's very difficult to, like, separate that. The 70-year-old something lady, I like, she was full on stressed when I saw her.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
hats off to them, but
And
we'll
you
get
just
them.
went through this as well with your family home, didn't you?
Yeah, I did that. I went to the whole thing, sold it in December, and then the year before that, I sold my mother-in-law's home. Last summer, I
Mm,
sold, a friend's um, parents' home out in the West End. Same thing, an older lady by herself, physical issues, and her lot was 300 feet deep with an eight
yes.
car driveway.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely, like an amazing house, but just absolutely unnecessary. And luckily, everyone got through unscathed. Like, there was no major incidents, like, you know, some minor falls and stuff, but nothing horrible. But knock on wood, everyone gets through safely.
Yes. Absolutely. Good luck with that.
Yeah. So what you got going on?
What do I have going on?
Tell me your headlines for today.
My headlines for today. Wow. Um, so the government has decided that they are going to remove the HST
Mm.
from new bills, not just for first-time buyers, but for everyone that wants to buy a new build. They're going to remove the HST.
And I saw that headline, and it kind of like I don't do a lot of new construction,
Hmm.
which is ironic because I've always bought new construction for myself, which is it's ironic. But
It is.
even looking back, the reason why it worked for me and our situation was because we had the time
Mm-hmm.
and because it was like it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the market has sort of changed and the
It has.
landscape has sort of changed
It has.
and by that I mean like in the days when I was buying pre-construction, yes, there were delays, but nothing like what you see
No.
today.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
like the amount of like I can't even remember back then of projects, going up, being marketed and then failing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it always was finished.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear stories of people getting burned. And I think today, like I would be a little leery unless it's like a huge builder, right? Like a Mattamy, Green Parks, Monarch,
Yeah.
something, Tridel, somebody who's like really entrenched in this whole thing. And they're building a project that, sort of transforms, an area. Like they're really invested in this thing versus, oh, we're putting up 6 to 8 townhomes in an infill project sort of wedged between convenience store and an
Right.
auto mechanic. Like you never heard of this guy, you don't know the
Yeah.
quality of the workmanship, and you're just buying off plan. I think
Mhm.
like I don't know, that would sort of spook me these days, but I do see like a need for it in some instances. But one of the things from that headline you sent me was it eliminates the 13% HST on new homes valued up to 1.5 million, but
Mhm.
the rebate is capped at $130,000,
Right.
which again, going back to my superior math skills, that means it's the house is only up to $1 million in value plus HST, does
Exactly.
it not?
Yeah, that's exactly what it
So
means.
what's the extra 500,000 window? What is that for? I'm not 100% sure. The other question I had was I know a lot of builder, and you can speak to this. I mean, you go to sort of new construction condo projects. The HST is typically a lot of the builders just roll it into the price, do they not?
They do, yes, they roll it into the price. Also, back in the day when I was doing pre-construction, if you plan to live in the home, you would get a rebate
Right.
of some kind. I'm not entirely sure what that is because, well, I'm not a lawyer, but because the lawyers used to apply for it, right, on
Right,
your
right.
behalf. My thing is, when they came out with this announcement, the amount of phone calls I got, thank you for to the government for that. Um, is it true? Is it true we can get a rebate or the HST back? And I'm like, that's new construction. So they put in new, but they forgot to put in construction.
Hmm.
So it had people confused. The general public was confused. What I can speak to is, yeah, it might bring out some buyers that were looking at pre-construction previously, but also there's very few people building now.
Yeah, and I think also too, like the pricing is established for some of these projects, and not necessarily across the entire project, but like that spectrum for the property, right? So if you're looking, let's say condos, for instance, let's just call it, a 600 square foot, one plus den or two bedroom or something, whatever that segment is, you kind of know the rough pricing per square foot, the
Yes.
maintenance per square foot. Like that's kind of figured out to now
Hmm.
say, okay, well, we're going to strip 13% off the purchase price, thinking that like that's in that sort of, total purchase calculation. The builder is basically just going to absorb that,
Yeah.
right? So like if they were at, 500,000 plus 13%, now that 13% is gone, so their price is not 500 anymore. They're going to
Yeah.
be like, oh, it's 550 and
Yes.
no HST. And it's like, okay. So the benefit, I don't see the benefit necessarily being to the buyer. I think like a lot of these developers are just going to find ways of skirting around that issue. And I think especially on the lower end, right? So if there's properties that they typically know, these are first time buyer properties. So it might not be a 3 bedroom condo, right, with a giant terrace, but it could be, all the studios, all the 1 bedrooms, the really small one plus dens. They may just jack up the prices knowing that that guy's going to get a 13% rebate. That's extra cushion for us.
Right.
So
Right. You're absolutely
I'm
right.
not sure if that benefit is going to trickle down to the buyer.
Yeah, and that was my issue with the whole thing. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe people watching this can, chime in the comments and let us know, is there something that we're missing? Because to me, it doesn't seem to be getting the needle moving on more homes, and that's what we need. We need more homes being built in this province. It's just crazy. But
Yeah, it feels like, a band-aid solution in a headline. Like,
yeah.
give people this and make them feel better. But I don't
Hmm.
know the logistics of it. The other question I had was like, well, two questions. How and when does one claim the rebate, which is the first thing? And the second question is, do you still have to qualify with your lender at the higher price outside of the rebate calculation? So would you still have to qualify for 500 plus the 13 plus any additional closing
Right.
costs? I would
Right.
assume as the lender, I want to know all of that because I
Yes,
can't guarantee you're getting the rebate,
exactly.
right? And then how and when do you claim the rebate? I remember, in my days, like the lawyer would basically do it on closing.
Yes.
And so there were some things that were just automatic. And I can't, I think that they've sort of prepped those rebate um, claims in advance of us sitting at closing.
Mhm.
But I feel like there were some that we actually had to pay out of pocket and may get back later.
Right.
So
And
the
the
question
way
is
a
like, which
rebate,
one is it?
yeah, the way a rebate usually works, and we know this from the land transfer taxes, the lawyer applies, and if you're a first-time buyer, you get a rebate.
Hmm.
And that rebate comes back to you. You got to pay it out first, and then it comes back. That's a rebate sort
Hmm.
of thing. So you've got very, very, very good questions. I don't have any answers for you. Um, I've been looking into it myself because, like I said, I had questions.
Yeah.
Does the lawyer have to apply for it? The real estate lawyer? I'm not even sure at this point. So I will circle back with answers.
Maybe
And
we
if
should do
anyone
like,
out there knows, they should put it in our comments because, well, We are two working realtors and we have no idea.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should have like a roundtable discussion with, some lawyers, developers, and
All of those are great
some
ideas.
some government people, and we'll sit in the
Mm-hmm.
middle and see where the dust settles.
I like it. I like it.
That's just an idea. Don't hold me to
Yeah.
it.
Set it up. I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, there's
No, what
another
about you?
headline.
Yeah.
So Treb expects an uptick in GTA home sales in the second half of the year. And then Treb claimed that there are more than 100,000 buyers holding off making a new home purchase or a home purchase,
A home
not necessarily
purchase.
new construction.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess the other question would be, how do they validate 100,000 buyers? So they
Yeah.
could be using data like searches and so on, and, small focus groups where they ask 1,000 people and I guess map it out.
Mhm.
But 100,000 people, that seems like a lot.
It does seem like a lot. I'm confused as to why they would go second half of the year as opposed to quarterly, which is what normally happens, especially in these types of markets. That there's that. Plus, I mean, I was having this discussion yesterday with a friend of mine. So we've got three, maybe four. I was just talking about three types of people that may want to move. So we have the upsizers, we have the downsizers, and we have the first time buyers. I mean, there's more in there, but let's focus on the three of those. So the upsizers want to be able to move into let's say it's a a townhouse, detached home from their condo. Well, condos aren't selling, so I'm not sure where this data is coming from. The downsizers, yeah, they should be able to move into a condo, let's say, but in the GTA, sorry, in the municipality of Toronto, we're looking at two land transfer taxes. So you've got to sell your home, you want to go to a condo, and you're an older person. Let's say you are, you know, 60s. You want to downsize.
Yep.
You've got to pay two land transfer taxes, municipal and provincial, to get yourself out of the house and into the condo.
Right.
That makes absolutely no sense to anyone. Why would you want to pay extra money? And you're not getting that back. So,
And it's not real money either. That's the other thing. Or it is and it isn't. So, like, for instance, this is an example. Um, you know, you buy your house many years ago for like $80,000.
mhm,
That house now is worth 1 million.
mhm,
So you're up, $920,000 basically if you sell it today and assume nothing else, like no other bills.
right.
There's 920.
Mhm,
But you turn around, like you said, you sell that house and then you buy a condo. The condo, again, you're not going to buy a shoebox. You're going to buy something that is at least comfortable for you and the things you've accumulated and a little bit more space. So
mhm,
you'll probably be on, slightly above the norm. So you may get a condo
right.
for 650, maybe 700.
Yes.
So what they're really looking at is that differential of 300,000.
Hmm.
And what you're saying is like, I've got the differential of 300,000 that I'm playing with, and I've got to
Hmm.
give X away to, movers and this thing and that thing, and then those transfer fees. And then,
Yeah.
so I feel like a lot of that pushback we get from seniors saying, well, no, I'm just going to stay here, is that feeling of blowing money and getting
Yeah.
less,
Yeah.
spending more. I bought it for 80 and now in order to downsize you want me to spend 700.
Yeah. Exactly.
The math isn't mathing for them. And I
Right.
went to see another client, another past client, last week or the week before, and same situation as the 100-year-old lady, but this guy's slightly younger.
Mhm.
And like his
Me,
house is
me too.
just full of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was overwhelming. So I've known him for, at least 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's my client since the early days. So when I went to visit him, normally him and his wife, I just, in the living room, dining room, kitchen. I've not been upstairs. I've not gone to
Mm-hmm.
the basement. I don't
Yeah.
go in the garage. I don't go in the backyard. Now I'm wearing a different hat and I'm walking through this house. I am shaking like a leaf. I'm like, there is no way you can do this by yourself. He's like, no, no, I can do it. I can. So I said, no, like this is way too much. I physically could not do it. So I called in someone that I know and said, like, can you have a look at this? And this woman, her job is decluttering and emptying really big houses. And she could do it with her crew. It would take anywhere from 2 to 3 days, and the cost would be $12,000.
Good God.
But again, once you factor in how many junk removal loads you'd have, how many runs to Value Village,
Mm-hmm.
donation, where you're going to find someone to come into your house to move large pieces. Like this is turnkey, 12,000. It's here today. Come back at the end of the week. It's done. Now
Yeah.
you can focus on the process of getting it ready to sell.
Right.
That makes sense. To me, it makes sense. To this guy, all he could think of was the 12,000, and it really sent him over the edge. Like he is now trying to sort of MacGyver his way to make this sort of idea on his own. He's going to figure it out
Right.
with, a bad hip and a cane and kids who are way outside the city who probably will not be involved in the process. Um, And I told her straight up, like, this is the biggest challenge that you're going to have is trying to sell this idea to a senior. Like he was telling him about, this Mercedes he has in the garage, and he spent $4,000 to buy it. You're asking him to spend 3 times that amount to get rid of stuff that he feels has value, but
Yeah.
clearly it has no value,
Right.
right? And that mental lock of like, I'm not spending that money. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. That is that is crazy. And I am focused on the money as well. Like the fact that he probably purchased that home for maybe it was I don't know how long ago it was, 40 years ago.
He
He paid
probably got it. He got it probably somewhere between 80 and $100,000 back then,
Yeah, I was just gonna say a hundred
right?
thousand dollars, right? So you're asking him to spend $12,000 to declutter and get it sort of ready to put it on the market. I would have a huge problem with that as well. Um, is it the right thing? Absolutely, it's the right thing. Can you show it to them? Probably not. Can you show the value? Because we are not millionaires. $12,000 to a millionaire is nothing, right?
Well, yeah, and I think okay, let's go back to the thesis, the whole philosophy behind the channel that we're on.
Mm-hmm.
Smart. Smart
Yes.
being the first word. The
Okay.
reality is, and I'm not saying, people are, I'm not degrading them. The challenge is in order to make a smart move, you have to be willing to do something that may look stupid to the masses at first. And the
Mm-hmm.
reality is like if someone said behind door number one is $1 million, it's cash money. It'll help you. The only thing I need is for you to give me $12,000 so I can go get you a really special key to get that $1 million. Most people are like, that's ridiculous. I'm not giving you that 12,000. Now, again, assuming you've done your due diligence and everything else, and that money is there, you should have, like, at some point, us as a community or a civilization, however you want to look at it, should have the mechanism to say whether it's at your bank or your financial plan or even a family member, whoever, even a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
for that manages older patients. These are the steps that you should go through. Talk to this lawyer, whatever. That $12,000 is basically the only thing stopping you from where you are to where you need to get to.
Right.
And the reality is if you, you know, don't do it, you're going to incur bigger fees, right? So like this
What?
gentleman already has a couple of leaks in the home. Well, we had the craziest rain last night and earlier
Yeah.
this week. Like every year, every season that you go through that you neglect these things, you're
Mm-hmm.
actually, scraping the value off,
Yes.
right? So you're actually going in reverse where you think, oh no, I'm saving money. You're actually, yes, you are saving money out of your pocket today, but
Mm-hmm.
you are actually doubling and tripling what you need to spend next year and the year after.
Mm-hmm. You're
So
absolutely
you're
right.
not in a better position. But again,
Yeah.
the challenge is how to communicate this in a way that mom, dad, aunt, uncle, whatever elder we're framing this for, can understand and take that leap,
Mm-hmm.
right?
You're absolutely right.
So
I've been in similar situations where, you're dealing with a let's say it's the family of someone who's passed away and they want to put the home on the market, and in the meantime, I mean, when they purchased the house 50, 60 years ago, it was 45, $55,000. Now you're looking at, okay, fine, I did this, I did that to the home, and I think the value should be here. Well, that's not what the comps say. The comps say the value is here. So, what is it that you want to do? Like, we should put it on the market here. And basically, yes, we should be here. But no, you want to go here. And it's going to sit on the market and sit on the market and sit on the market because you have essentially shot yourself in the foot and overpriced this home. So, there, the house is paid off. And like you said, all things being equal, there is no money owing on this house. This is free money for you. Free money. Why would you
yeah,
not take what you can get and go away? Like, go enjoy the money. Spend it on whatever. Trips, your own
yeah.
your own mortgage. I don't understand why people just don't get it. Like,
It's because we get
we are
old.
not where we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We're not where we were.
Yeah.
The
Well,
home is not
we
going to
get
be worth
old, and those times create habits, right?
that. Mm-hmm.
So longer you stay doing something, the harder it is to unravel that.
Yeah.
I think that's just my opinion. So like an analogy was, this gentleman I was speaking of, his wife passed away a few years ago, and for years they would collect, those Royal Dalton
Oh, yeah.
figurines. Like every old lady had a set of these. And I'm gonna buy
You
one for
mean
each of the
senior?
grandkids, and they're worth, and they're like $200 each at the time,
Yeah.
and oh, they're gonna be worth a fortune. Well, no, because every old lady has them, right? It's
You
like
mean
baseball
senior?
cards. You thought this baseball card was such an amazing thing, as an 8-year-old. Meanwhile, every kid has the same friggin' card, so it's worth zero. So trying to explain to this guy, oh, my wife's collection of Royal Dalton figurines, and we're like, it's worth zero. No, no,
Mm,
no, she paid. And so in his mind, it's everything is a cost plus calculation.
right.
I bought 10 of these at $200 each. They're worth $2,000 plus the appreciation of time. They're worth 5,000. Like
Mm-hmm.
minus 5,000 minus 4,900 maybe. Like it's not worth anything. So for
Yeah.
them, it like that reality check is painful.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I don't even know if it's painful. It's more offensive. Painful would
Yes.
mean that like you're understanding it, and it hurts your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You're more offended that like someone's even telling you. Like I spent good money. Like every month, I bought this figurine for $200. You know what I had to do to get this figurine? Then I had to
Yeah.
buy this cabinet. My wife got this nice cabinet. See the cabinet? I put the figurines in the cabinet. What do you mean it's worth nothing? Haven't
Yeah.
you been to the Smithsonian? It's like the Smithsonian. Look. Like, no, it's not like that at
Yeah.
all.
Right.
So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Absolutely correct. So
So,
we got another headline. Do you want to go through it quickly?
sure.
So the other headline was on developmental charges, and we're back to the new bills again and the builders and everything else. So, um,
Yeah, this one I
what
don't
do you,
quite wrap my head around.
okay,
So like I understand that there's development charges, and basically those again apply to um,
new bills,
new bills,
new
but like the
construction.
development of land that
Mm-hmm.
right. So a developer will come in and buy a patch of land, say I'm going to put a condo or 30 townhomes or whatever the case is, and then they would be assessed of X number of dollars for developing that land. So they're going to be bringing in services like water and fire hydrants and light
Electricity.
poles and electricity and hydro and all the services that go with it. I understand
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, but it seems like it's a discussion between the government and the developers.
Right.
So again, it goes back to like, how is this trickle down and benefit the consumer? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
100% sure because like consumers and you were part of, Treb and different groups. Like, are these um, consumer sided groups at the table when these negotiations and discussions are happening? I feel like they roll out the idea and just give it to the public, but the public isn't really involved in that process. Like, how how does it benefit me? Like, I just don't see the connection necessarily. I feel like maybe that'll spur on they're hoping maybe some new development, like a bunch of developers would be like, hey, we've saved a few points and maybe we can build sooner or more or more frequently. But again, look at Toronto from a topographical perspective, going, Google Maps and, put on the image and actually look. And you try and find me a patch of dirt that's big enough to put projects in that, are still going to be affordable once they're built. Like they're having to buy out existing properties, buy out existing businesses, take over huge chunks of land, and that is pricey. And that is, again, go back to the cost plus situation. If I have to buy a patch of land for 1 million versus I have to buy a patch of land for 25 million, I'm getting my money back
Yeah.
through the buyer some
Mm-hmm.
way, somehow. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I'm going to overspend by 20 million, but I'll eat that difference.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense. That's not how it works. So
Right.
the more expensive that land is, the more expensive the end product is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I don't know if there's going to be a major dip, but call me stupid.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
don't call me stupid.
okay, I won't. Um, Here's my thing about the whole thing. When you decide that you're going to buy a property and it's going to cost you about 40% extra to put the infrastructure in place, as a builder, you have to say it's $1 million, so now it's 40% more on top of that. Where are you passing this cost on to the buyer in the end? But then, it depending on whether it's a low rise product or a high rise product. That high rise product, it's only 140% because you're building up, but you're passing on that 40% to every single buyer that purchases a unit in that high rise.
Well, yeah, but again, like part of it too is you can't minimize the developer piece too much because when you see a condo being put up, if you actually saw the price of the land depending on where it is, it would like it make your head spin,
Oh yeah.
right? So to build a condo and buy a patch of land like prime real estate downtown, you're probably looking at $50 million.
Hmm.
Then you've got permits, then you've got design, then you've got like all these other things. The cost and the fees. So even before, let's go back to the very beginning of building a condo. Condos, it's finished. They give everyone their keys, but now there's that period of phantom occupancy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So basically, the builder is now waiting for the city to give them the green light to transfer ownership from that corporation of the
Right.
developer to the individual unit owners.
Mm-hmm.
Those phantom mortgages and fees are basically proportionate costs based on how
Based
much
on
square
square.
footage you have, do you have parking space, locker, whatever. So if you took everybody and put them all in one room and say, give me all, like, what are you paying? What are you paying? You calculate it all up together. That's the cost that the developer and the builder is paying,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the reality is, like, when you trickle all that down, like, it doesn't really move the needle a whole bunch.
It doesn't.
But for the developer as one single individual or one company or corporation, it's a huge amount of money that they have to sort of pony up to get this project off the ground.
Well, it's not
So,
just money. So this developmental charges, so they're going to cut it by 50% is what I last heard. Um, is it going to building, get Ontario building faster? No, because there's still those hang-ups in municipal politics or in the city part of it that will say, oh, it's 3 months, 6 months in this department, there's 6 months in this department. Like the whole thing, it's time, and
yeah,
time is money. And I'm not sure why these people don't understand that, because it's something that it's clearly tied together. It's clearly tied together. It's not going to be any less time. Your developmental charges, say you cut them 50% for the building or the low rise to go up. It's not going to be less time.
no. But again, I don't. I'll play the part of Debbie Downer. None of this development in Toronto, none of this stuff is to the benefit of the public or the buyers.
I
Never
agree.
has been. So
Mm-hmm.
the idea that, oh, we're going to create new housing and, oh, look at this developer. These are businesses and revenue generating entities of the
Yeah.
government. It's all that they are.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not building out of the, goodness of their heart to make sure everyone is housed. That's part of their mantra, but at the end of the day, they need to turn a profit for the time and the expense and then all the rest of it. So what I would say that they are contributing to are jobs, right? So giving laborers and skilled workers and
Yeah.
everybody that,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully improving neighborhoods and areas and that sort of thing. But to say that, okay, we've cleared this one hurdle and now they're going to start building and there's going to be affordable housing coming. No, it's not the way it
Yeah.
is. It's
Mm-hmm.
still going to be at market price,
Yes.
right? These developers, when they're doing their forecasts on how to build a building, how to maximize the space and the footprint, how to control the maintenance fees and all the rest of it, the HVAC, and putting all of these things together to create a project that can deliver 500 livable units at you know hopefully a profit, but at the very least break even and
Mm-hmm.
give someone some sort of benefit. I mean, I don't know. You're asking a lot for them to suddenly turn to a different cheek and be like, okay, think about it this way. I
Right.
mean, it's a huge undertaking just to get that thing off the ground, finished, done, and be in
Yep.
the black versus the red,
Yeah.
right? And the minute you have a delay, you're like, that one at the Young and Bloor who's basically gone under. I mean, that building, I've lost track. What is that, 10, 12 years old? That since
Yeah.
it started, and like people are still suing each other and it's
Yeah.
not finished. And
And I
okay,
believe Tridel took that one over, right? Is that the
yeah,
one that Tridel took over?
I think so.
Yeah.
Again, so
Anyways,
yep, on a
that's
positive
what
note,
I got for you. Yeah. What's the positive note?
it's April 1st, April Fool's,
April
haha.
1st. Oh my gosh. And start of a new quarter.
Yep.
S- Well, I was going to say the start of the spring season in real estate, but really that should have started at the beginning of March-ish.
Yeah.
But yeah, some
Just
of us are busy out there.
yeah. I just don't think there's enough stability in the world to give everybody the comfort to get out and do things as normal. I mean, one of the questions I had, towards one of the headlines was, my question would be like, what is the catalyst or the tipping point that would get buyers, those
Mm-hmm.
100,000 buyers, get them off the couch and buying?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, I feel like we're not at that point where it's clear. Like if you
It
follow the
isn't.
stock market at all, like I'm getting whiplash. Like just looking at it. Every day
Mhm.
it's up or it's down. It's up, and
Yeah.
the reasons why it's up and down are so stupid.
Mm.
Like Trump says one thing, or the war might end, or it might continue, or the strait may open, or oh
Yeah.
no, there's too much rain and snow, and that's going to be a
Yeah.
drain on resources. I mean, like it's we are not talking about fundamentals. We're talking about just hyperbole and stuff people make up, and
Yeah.
it's an interpretation of stuff. We need to get everything back to a time of stability where you can just think, where you're really concerned about yourself and your job. That's it. My
Mm-hmm.
boss likes me or my boss hates me. Things are going well. The place is too small. We're expecting our fifth child, whatever the story is. And people can then, not me, I'm just
Yeah.
hypothetical, but people can then, plan out their life and say, this is where I
Right.
am. This is where I'm going.
Yeah.
Like everything beneath my feet is stable and I'm making a
Yeah.
decision to go from
Yeah.
A to B.
We're
It's
lacking
impossible.
stability.
It's
We're lacking
impossible.
stability. That's
You can
all.
make a
That's what
decision
it
today.
is.
The stock, like the markets, when I checked before I got on, the market was up today. So if you made a decision today, you feel good about it.
Mhm.
By tomorrow, you're going to feel horrible about the decision you made yesterday.
Yeah.
And that is the problem for especially young people. Like they don't know when to start, when to stop, when to give up, when to invest. It's a blur. So I
Hmm.
feel bad for them.
I agree with that. We're lacking stability in the world right now, and the positive is that if this does, when it this whole thing concludes, I believe we are going to be the better for it, and we can go back to worrying about normal, normal things.
like what? Well, I don't even remember what that was pre. Like, what was the bother pre-COVID? Like, oh no, I got a
I
parking
mean,
ticket 2 months ago. Oh,
yeah,
good thing I was
you
able to
know,
shake that off. Like,
um,
what
we
was
had
bad?
we had first world problems before
What
the
were I
pandemic.
want to know what I don't have dementia, but I feel like I've completely forgotten what
Oh,
life
come
was
on,
before. What was that?
you went to Starbucks and they spelled your name wrong.
Okay, wow, yeah.
Right?
Or you wash the
That,
car, and on the way home from the car wash, it rained. Like those are what we called problems. Now I don't want any more of this. I'm done.
yeah,
I'm gonna live in the
exactly.
woods. I'm gonna talk to animals.
Okay, on that great note, great.
Anyways,
All right. Are we
happy
good?
April 1st. We are
Yeah,
good.
good. It's gonna
Another
be a bright, beautiful day tomorrow, so yay.
yay.
Okay.
Get out there and enjoy it.
All
It's
right.
another episode in the
Take
books.
care.
Bye.